Hello, Pastor John Keller here from Fish Lake Lutheran. And this day I wanted to look at Genesis chapter 12 and the call of Abraham. Abraham is a central figure in the Old Testament and in religious life even today. You know, if we think about our country, the United States of America, we might say that George Washington was the father of our country, that he was one of those who originated or started the movement to create a nation of states independent from Great Britain. Well, Abraham is the father, in a sense, of our faith, of our religious faith, not only for us as Christians, but particularly also for the Jews, for Judaism, and also for Islam, for those Muslims. That Abraham is that central character over 3,000 years ago. Very ancient history. 1,000 or 1,500 years before Jesus was born. We have this story about Abraham. And the one I want to focus in on is in Genesis chapter 12. After the flood, after the creation, after things have kind of fallen apart and God's reestablished things, that God calls Abraham. That's the first thing I want to think about. God is Abraham, and his name is Abram to begin with. It means father, which is kind of ironic, since at the time he is called in chapter 12, he has no children. He and his wife Sarah, or Sarai, are barren. They do not have children. Now the Lord said to Abram, God speaks directly to him. We don't know how God does this. Maybe in a dream, possibly in his own prayers, that Abraham just kind of was sitting and just kind of felt this internal voice. It may have been an external voice. We don't know. But God spoke to Abraham. That way he reveals God's self, that God intervenes into Abraham's life and calls Abraham. And the call is a key element here, that we trust that God's at work. It's not Abraham says, I have this idea that I'm going to go do something. But rather God says, I want you to do this. And he's to go and he's to start this thing. He's to leave his family. He lives in a place in the Eastern Mediterranean, in Syria we would think of today, and he goes south from that to live in the Palestine where Israel, the nation of Israel, is today. And he's to take that land, and he just is to go with his self and with his wife Sarah, their servants, their cattle, and to make this journey, to leave everyone else and to go there. So he's called, and God gives him an action. And the interesting thing is, of course, the call, God's action, and then it's Abraham. I'm going to keep calling him Abraham, though he's Abram at this point. Abraham listens and he faithfully responds. He acts in faith. He acts. He responds to what God started him. And he goes. So God calls, and then we, as Abraham models for us, respond. It's a good thing to know that we have a place in this, a role in this, just like Abraham has a role. And the interesting is as he responds, as he takes this step of faith, makes this journey to the new place, he then is blessed. God makes his promise, I will bless you. Now this is another image where God calls, God blesses Abraham. No, it's an interesting blessing. Often when we say, I'm blessed, we may not think of material things. I'm blessed with good health, for instance. Or I'm blessed with a wonderful home or good family. Those are gifts that God gives us. But Abraham's blessed in this journey where he leaves his family. He's over 75 years old, and he says he will be blessed with a child, which is going to be quite a challenge for him at that age, for he and Sarah. It'll be still a time. But he will be blessed, and he'll have a sense of God's presence. So blessing means God's presence, God's love, and there's a certain sense of happiness sometimes associated with it. It can be a certain joy. associated with it, that God's here with me. I feel blessed. I feel a sense of God's presence with me. But also that I am blessed. He says to Abraham, you are blessed so you can be a blessing to others. Now, Abraham isn't just blessed to say, oh, look at me, I'm so blessed. No, he is to take this blessing that's given to him and may a blessing out to others. And he will be a blessing to others because he will eventually have a child named Isaac. He has actually two children, and both are blessed in a sense. Ishmael, we'll talk a bit about, and Isaac. And through Isaac has a son, two sons, Jacob and Esau, and then they have sons. Jacob particularly has 12 tribes. And out of this comes the whole story of the Old Testament, of the Hebrew Scriptures, of the story of the people of Israel and Judah. And eventually comes down to Jesus. And he says this in this text, I will bless you and make your name great, God says to Abraham, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abraham is to be blessed so that he can give this connection to God to others. That we are blessed with this relationship with God, this wonderful relationship in which we enjoy God's presence, so we can be a blessing to others. And eventually one of the blessings we think of that comes through Abraham is the blessing of Jesus and his birth, because he is the son of Abraham, a child of Abraham, as we are sons and daughters of Abraham. So we are called, we respond in faith, and then we are blessed to be a blessing, just as Abraham.